So I want to share with you some thoughts about the Cubase metronome and click settings, which have improved a lot, I guess, since the days where they only had this one sound and it was a really annoying sound and it always spilled over in your microphone recordings a lot. One thing you can obviously do is to activate your click, and this goes either over this button here, or you press the C on your computer keyboard and it will activate or deactivate the click. So if you do so, you will probably hear the standard Cubase metronome sound, and this is, I think, for some situations not the worst because you can hear it really well, but as I said in the beginning, for sensitive recordings with microphones, it is probably not the best. Also, I think, to me at least, it is really not very good for your ears, especially if it's a little louder, it will become very annoying. So if you want to work on this click, you can do it over two different ways. You have your transport bar, and if you clicked on show my metronome settings, which are over here, so you click on the little icon and activate it here, then you will see this, which you can show or hide over the three little dots at the side. You have your activate my click button. You have a pre-count button, which means if you activate this and you start your recording, you see it will give you a count in. You have a click pattern over here where you can do basic changes really easy, goes super fast and is really helpful. And of course you have an editor window which will open a new window, and here are all your click and metronome settings that you can do. So at first, the easy ones are of course activate your click, use a count in when I start recording, and the click patterns. So the click patterns are like 4 different sounds. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4, or off. These 4 sounds all have a different pitch. So the highest is obviously the highest pitch, and the second highest, third highest, and the lowest pitch. And with this, you can make your own click patterns just by activating or deactivating different note pitches for your click. So the default pattern would of course be 1 high and 4 lower. And it sounds like this. If you change it for this, there will be another note in the middle with a different pitch. So you have your first beat marked and your third as well. This might be interesting if you have a very long tune and you wanna mark at one point that a long period of time is over and your musicians, they don't have to count these, let's say, 88 bars, so they just can play, and 2 bars before this 88 bars are over, you change your click pattern to something that is really recognizable, and they will know, okay, now we only have 2 bars and a new part begins, like this one, for example. So these click patterns you can adjust here, super easy. You can choose from some presets and you can do your own presets, which I will show in a moment. You can also choose a number of clicks per bar, which will not, and you can see this here, which will not interfere with your basic time signature. So for example, if I use only 2 of the clicks per bar, it will basically give me a half-time groove. So right now it sounds like this. I still have my 4/4 time signature, but only 2 clicks per bar, which makes something like a half-time. I can use 3, 4 or 5 and so on clicks per bar, and that will give me always a different time feeling. I'm still in a 4/4 beat, but now I will hear 5 clicks per bar. And of course, you can still do your click patterns like this one. That would be like the really simple click settings you can do in your transport bar. If you go to your edit window, you have of course a lot more options, which are, for example, activate your click. You can see it's the same as this button over here. Use a Midi or an audio click and send the click to a certain output. So if your audio hardware is put into Cubase and you have more than 1 outputs available, you can route your click to these outputs really easy here. So these two are really interesting for you. The audio click is the one I just used. You can see when I deactivate my audio click, then you can't hear anything even when my click is activated. So right now you won't hear anything. The other possibility you have is you use a Midi click. A Midi click will route the send signal for your metronome to a virtual instrument. Right now I loaded just a basic drum and I used this editor window to say I want to use a Midi click. I routed it to my standard drum pattern, and now I have a click that comes from this VST instrument. As you can see, the default is 4 of the same pitches. So right now it just plays the same sound all the time. There's an easy way to change this. You just click in this window and drag the slider to the left or right until you find a sound that you think is perfect for you. If you found the sounds that you like, you can adjust how strong the emphasis on the first one or another one should be. Right now I wanna show the first one really strong here, and the other ones should be softer, so I drag the slider for the volume down. So that's mostly it. You can do everything you want. I would give you the advice not to use this one. It's really not helpful for anybody at all. So this might be the worst click setting ever. But in any case, it's really easy. You can put in any VST instrument here, a bass, a piano, whatever you want. Of course, drum and percussion sounds would make sense. That is the setting here. You can have a click during your recording, during your playback, or during the pre-count. The pre-count, you can see it's the same button as here. It's really easy and I already explained it. The other two might be interesting for you. Let's say you want to do a recording which should not be with a click, but you still want all the musicians to start at the same point. So you would do a tempo setting that is about the same as yours in your song, and you say you don't want to have a click during the recording but in your pre-count. So that would make a click in the pre-count, so all the musicians know how to start at the same point and what is the overall idea of your tempo. But then the click stops and the musicians can play freely like the way they want to. The other possibility is probably the most used. You have a click during the recording. And this one here is also good to know because you can say, I want to have a click while I listen to my recording or not. So sometimes you just want to switch between recording and listening, and then you probably just want to listen to your recorded material and not to the click. So you would deactivate this here. And now, if you listen to your material, nothing will occur. But if you start recording, the click is present. And here you can put in how many bars your count in is supposed to be. If you use an audio click, you can now choose something else than the default Steinberg click sound. You just go here and say you want to have a certain sound. And you can load your own sounds as well, but you can just choose here from a bunch of different sounds Cubase has already integrated. For example, this here. And you can again adjust the volume between your different counts. And still use the click patterns to adjust the pitch of your different sounds that you put in here. It's really easy, and most of these sounds are pretty good. I think some are useful for different instruments, and you can just scroll through these ones and have a listen to them so you know what there is, and then you can choose the one you like or your musician likes. On the last page you have your click patterns, and these are mostly like the default patterns that come with Cubase when you buy it. If you want to put in another one, for example, your 7/4 is 1 accented, the other ones are the same. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, or the other way around, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you have your own idea of 7/4, then you just click on do another one, and you go like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So if you now choose a 7/4 time signature, you can choose from the different click patterns, which is the default setting, the 4/3, 3/4, and the weird one that I just created. That is basically what you can choose here. In your Metronome edit page. So there's two more things I want to show you because they're really good to know and come in handy for some certain situations. And one is you can edit your click patterns in a time signature track. So if you hold your Alt button and click in a time signature track, a new time signature function will appear. And if you go over here and say show me my click patterns, you can edit click patterns for every time signature event that you put in. And that is what I meant before. Like if you have a track that needs certain points for your musicians to know where they are, you could easily adjust it by just clicking on this event, and you choose the pattern that you want, and Cubase will play this click for you at the right time. So I think that's pretty cool. And another thing concerning the sound of your click is sometimes a MIDI or audio click that is created while you are recording is not stable enough. If you have a lot of tracks and different difficult effects or whatever, and you have a high computer memory and CPU load, then your click might run not very stable. And for that reason, there is a good function which you can find also here. And you can either let the computer do a MIDI click in between your locators or an audio click. If you choose an audio click, the click patterns will have the exact same sound that you put in here. So if you listen to this audio track, it will sound exactly like the click that we had before. If I mute it, you see you cannot hear anything. If I unmute it, you can hear these are exactly the same patterns as here above. The MIDI click, of course, will now play MIDI information but not any sound because there is no instrument. If I put it on my drum track, you can see it will play an instrument again, but it will not have the same sound and it will not have different pitches. This is only the time signature is the same as above. You can see the half notes. Here you can see the eighth notes and later on the quarter notes. But it has a different sound. It's just the information for the timing. Both can be helpful. I think the audio click solution is probably one of the most stable click solutions you can find other than the one here. And the last thing concerning your click and metronome settings is you can already see this in my window. I will disable it for a moment. You can, if you want to, let Cubase display the downbeats of your click pattern. So right now, the lines you can see here is always a brighter line or a thicker line for the one, and then 3 of the same lines until the next one comes. That does make sense, but maybe sometimes you want to see something different, especially if you have a uneven time signature and you want to have this different accents also visible, not only like in your click, but you want to also see it. Then you go over here in your drop down and you choose this one, and that will show the accents of your click pattern also visible here in Cubase. Of course, here in the beginning nothing changed because the accent was the same as it was before, but later on it changed because I had two accents here in this click pattern. I have an accent here and an accent here, so a new line appeared, and here I have a descending pattern, and it's loud, soft, softer, very soft, and you can see my lines are pretty similar to that. The first one is just normal, and then they get always a little thinner or less bright. So that is the basics about the Cubase click. I hope that was helpful to you.